In this video, I'm going to show you the two types of stress that pastors face, the 4 ways that those present, the 5 steps that I took to manage them myself, and I'm going to show you how you can do the same thing in the next 7 days. And all of this is dealing with stress eating. So I polled our community and asked them what they needed help with, and I got a few different answers. Some were binge eating, some were stress eating, some were even depression, coping. And so I want to address that today. And I want to tell you the problem is that there's 2 types of stress responses. So there's 2 things that I've noticed are very consistent among pastors if they're dealing with stress eating, depression eating, any kind of emotional eating. So the first kind is diet stress. And this leads to 2 different things. Now, diet stress comes from when your diet is so rigid and tight that there's no room for error. There's no enjoyability, as we talk about in the Solomon method. So there's no way for a pastor to enjoy what he's eating. He feels very constrained, and that causes stress. And this leads to 2 things. The first way that this presents is perfectionism. So you get very perfectionistic in this, and that leads to an all or nothing mentality. So it's like, I am going to be 100% on my calories, or I'm going to go a little bit over. Nah, I might as well go all the way over. And so this perfectionism shows up, and it leads to way overeating, a lot of binge eating, a lot of junk, and that's obviously not healthy. The other way that this shows up is in punishment. And so someone misses a day, and they get really stressed out about their diet, and then they punish themselves the next week, and they constrain everything super tight. They make it really rigid, and they try to compensate for that overeating that they had by just not eating anything, and obviously that's not healthy either. So that's diet stress. The second kind that I've noticed a lot of pastors deal with is life stress. This is where ministry gets difficult. There's a family situation where maybe you're taking care of your parents. Maybe there's some kind of difficulty that you're dealing with personally, and just this is uncontrollable life stress. This is things outside of your control causing you to have issues. Now, the problem with this is that this leads to 2 different ways that it presents. The first one is called control rebellion. You may have heard of sleep rebellion in the past. Sleep rebellion is where you have nothing in control of your life. And so you go work a job that you don't enjoy. Maybe there's people in your church who frustrate you, and they bring up things that you cannot control. There's a lot of outside your control things in your life. And so you try to compensate for this by going to bed super, super late. I can control my bedtime. So the same thing happens in eating rebellion, or in this form of control rebellion. That's where you binge eat because it's the only thing that you can control. It's your food, it's your diet. I might not be able to control what happens at work, but I can control what I'm cooking tonight. And I'm going to make sure it's the best meal I've had all week. So you control, you control, you control, and this leads to binge eating, it leads to overeating, and it leads to overfeeding. The other kind of presentation that I've noticed life stress has is self-rewarding. This is where you find yourself in tough situations, and you give yourself reward because you went through a tough situation. It's been a long day at work, so I need to eat something good. It's been a really stressful day or a really stressful week, so one day of overeating won't hurt. I've earned this, or I've worked out today. Heard this too, so I've earned my cheat meal. That's not how it works, but that's how we like to pretend that it works. And so whether it's diet stress or life stress, there's the 2 different ways that each of these show up, and none of them are correct. And the reason is that none of them are stewardship. They're all some kind of broken coping mechanism, and they obviously, we know they're never going to lead us towards true satisfaction or true, self-worth. They're never going to actually solve the problem. And so instead of going to the one who can, we just try to become the one who can, and we control a very small aspect of our life that ends up hurting us more than helping us. And so really all of this is just a stress response. It's a coping mechanism, and none of these 4 options are healthy. So let me give you the 5 tactics that I personally used to help avoid binge eating, stress eating, and that have helped me in my own journey. So the first thing is I stopped eating carbs after 8 p.m. to kill late night binges. I don't know why 8 p.m. works so well, and I don't know why carbs work so well, but if I cut carbs after 8, it works. I can lose weight. I don't have to overwork for it. I don't have to stress myself out about it. It just works. Oftentimes I've noticed that once the sun goes down, once it gets dark, that's when those cravings start to come up. I've also noticed that, we typically eat in America at least around 5 to 7 p.m. So then if you stay up a little bit later, then there's more time for you to eat. And so that's when those cravings start to come up. So I noticed this about the 8 p.m. carb rule, but I also noticed, like I just mentioned, sometimes we go to bed later. So if you just go to bed earlier, then there's fewer waking hours for you to feel hungry. If you're up 4 hours after your last meal, it's pretty much time for another meal. But if you're not up till 11 after just eating at 5, then that 6-hour difference is not going to hit you nearly as hard. So if you go to bed a little bit earlier, that helps everything. And of course, a little sleep, a little slumber for the eyelids is healthy. A ton is not good anyway. So that's probably more healthy for you anyway. Number 3 is I started drinking ice cold water before meals. This is for 2 reasons. One, obviously there's less volume in your stomach now to take up, so there's less ability for you to eat when you drink a whole big water bottle. The second reason, and the reason it's ice cold, is because ice cold water increases your metabolism by 30% for up to 90 minutes. So what this means is it's not one for one. It's not like you burn 30% more calories, but you do burn more calories. So if you eat 100 calories and you don't do this, then you're going to use those 100 calories. You're going to consume them, probably store them as fat. If you eat 100 calories and still drink this ice water, then you may end up actually burning a portion of those 100. So then you only end up using maybe 70 of them. Rough math, but that's kind of how it works. And so this has helped me to increase my metabolism and decrease the amount of food that I need to eat to feel full. Because I've already drunk more, there's less space in my stomach to take up. Therefore, you feel full a little bit more. Number 4 is I began to chew gum before and during cravings. So before, if I know that I tend to feel hungry around 9 a.m., 10 a.m., then if I pop some gum in before then I can give my body the sensation of eating something without actually ingesting the calories. And if I notice that I'm in the middle of a craving, something just hits, it's maybe not expected, it's not planned, then I've noticed that if I just give myself a cool down period of like 10, 15 minutes by chewing gum, most cravings usually last around those 10 or 15 minutes. So if I chew gum during that time, then the sensation of craving it kind of goes away while I'm still scratching the itch, so to speak, of needing to like eat something. So that's a good little bonus. And then finally is I cut breakfast so that lunch and dinner stayed fuller. So if you deal with stress eating, it's probably because you're getting later in the day most of the time, and it's probably because you're dealing with some of that sleep rebellion or that eating rebellion. Maybe it's a stress response, maybe you're punishing yourself, and then you're overindulging later on because of that punishment. But what happens is if you eat smaller meals, then you feel less full throughout the day. So if you cut a meal, then you're able to eat the same amount of calories, but eat more food during those feeding windows. So this isn't true intermittent fasting. I'm not doing a certain number of hours on, a certain number of hours off. I'm just not eating breakfast. And when lunch comes, it's lunchtime. When I'm hungry enough, I eat lunch. When it's dinner time, I eat dinner. And I'm able to eat a little bit more during those meals because I've cut breakfast. And that enables me to stay in my calorie goal. I don't have as many cravings because I've eaten more. So while I'm full, I'm fuller for longer. And ultimately, this has helped. So what changed as a result of these 5 tactics? Number 1 is I recognize stress responses for what they are compared to hunger. I'm able now to differentiate, am I hungry because I'm stressed? Am I hungry because this is a coping mechanism? Has it been a long day? Or am I truly just hungry because I've not had enough food today? Another thing is the evenings got easier because I had rules, not just good intentions. I think we all have great intentions. Today's going to be a great day. I'm going to stay on plan. I'm going to eat all the right things. But if you don't have any rules to support that, a framework to live inside, then you just have good intentions and a lot more cookie butter than you should be eating. And so just don't do that. You need some rules, you need some frameworks. Then what I really have appreciated is that my diet got simpler, not stricter. So when you have a simple framework to use, then now you don't have to add a bunch of rules, you don't have to add complexity, you can just enjoy what you have. And so my diet's gotten simpler. I just don't eat after 8 p.m. when it's those times that I'm battling with stress eating or with overeating or binge eating, any of that. It's not stricter, it's just simpler. It's something that's very clear to me. It's not complex, it's not difficult. And then I'm able to lead more from honesty because I'm not getting pushed around by stress and cravings anymore. And I think this is the most important piece here. If fitness is stewardship, if I'm an example as a pastor, then I should be leading honestly. I shouldn't be tossed about to and fro, not by doctrine, but by stress. I shouldn't be leading reactively. I should be leading responsively. I should be modeling what self-control looks like. And now I can preach self-control. And at least in this area, I'm able to speak from a place of authority because I've done it before. So, conclusion, some actionable pieces for you is that stress eating is typically a symptom. So if you handle the stress, then that helps you actually attack it. And you're not just dealing with snacks, you're handling stress. Then restriction and punishment, they make the cycle worse. Like I said, if you restrict everything down and you have an overly restrictive diet, then you will force yourself to compensate for that at some point because those hunger signalings get stronger. You feel more hungry, you have more cravings, I don't know if this is the right word for it, but like you fetishize food, like you make it more than it is. And so a donut isn't just a donut, it's the only thing that you can think about. Restriction doesn't work. Punishment doesn't work because then you punish yourself, you go so low calorie, you restrict yourself even more, and then eventually when you do binge, you're gonna compensate that much more. So punishing myself for binging by compensating for the binge is not gonna ever work. I just need to go back to the plan, stick to the plan. So simplicity, that plan that we made, it will always work better than restriction and punishment. And I'll just say this, a few clear rules beat vague motivation every time. If I have this idea of what the day could look like, if I had this idea of what my diet can look like, that's great. But if there's not any rules to follow, any frameworks to live in, then you're not going to accomplish that desire. Your vision will never turn into a reality. It will always only be an idea. It lives in tomorrow, the proverbial tomorrow that never comes. And if you give this 7 days, if you practice those 5 steps that I gave you, not eating carbs after 8 p.m., going to bed earlier, drinking ice cold water, and by the way, a whole water bottle. I don't know if I said that or not, but a full 16.7 or 9 ounce fluid water bottle. Do it as cold as you can stand it. That's going to give you that metabolic boost and fill your stomach. And then chewing gum before and during cravings, and then cutting breakfast so that lunch and dinner are bigger. If you do those 5 things for 7 days, you'll know whether your cravings are hunger and stress. You'll be in a better place because now you have a framework to follow. So I would just say start there. You don't have to fix the whole system. You don't have to implement an entire diet regimen. You don't have to swap to keto or paleo or Whole30 or whatever other boo hockey idea that people try to push. You don't have to have all of it. Just start here. And I would guarantee this is going to help you manage stress eating, depression eating, binge eating, or just those days where you feel a little bit tired. I need something to compensate. So this is it. Hopefully this helps you. And by the way, I have a free community for only pastors. And if it is your goal to get in the best shape of your life, then this is one of the many resources that we're giving out for free in that community. The link's in the description, and hopefully I'll see you on the other side.